Okay. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Coolio. Okay. So what did you think of the videos?
I thought it was pretty yeah, like I can see that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, I feel that as like a young voter as well.
Definitely, definitely. Anything else that anyone wants to say? No? Okay, cool. So I guess we can move on to this activity here. We're gonna kind of establish the purpose of this project, and we can start by asking the question, why does the youth vote matter? And if you have an idea, you can just jump right in, tell us what your idea is, and then write it down on one of these sticky notes. And what we're going to do is just collect different perspectives from everyone in the room to get an idea of what we're going to do to help solve this problem and to give ourselves like a sense of purpose for everything that we're doing for this project. So does anyone want to start off by answering, why does the youth vote matter?
I guess I'll start. Again, this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally our future as a young voter, and I think like the millennial generation and below us, like it's right now, it's really going to affect us in the perspective of like global warming. It's going to hit us harder sooner than expected, and I think it's something for all young voters to consider, to vote this year and so forth, because it needs to change. And well, that's my opinion.
Okay, very good. Do you want to add like a description of that to the board?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay, cool. Dan, do you have anything to say about this one? I see that his cursor is there. Is he in the chat?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm back. I downloaded the Discord and I can hear you and I can see you and I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I would say it's change. It's a fresh voice. It's people who haven't been voting and who aren't voting as much, and it's a new voice, and it's a fresh voice, and it's important, and it's the people who will be the longest with the decisions that are made.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because it's like older generations in the future, unfortunately they're going to pass away eventually, but it's young people that's going to be making decisions and moving businesses forward, moving the country forward, right? So it's like you said, like we should be included because it's about us. And yeah, a lot of young people that are frightened of climate change have every reason to be a little bit anxious and scared, because it seems like our politicians aren't really listening and they're not doing what's best for everyone. So yeah, I think young people do have bright ideas about what the future should be. So that's my opinion. I think the youth vote matters because I think young people, they they embrace change, and we're the generation that wants to improve life for everyone, including the planet. So I'm gonna put that here. I'm just gonna extend this sticky out a little bit more so I can write a sentence. By the way, you can make your stickies bigger, smaller, or add more notes if you want to. We could just fill up this board with like different ideas if you got some. I'm gonna start with mine here.
I think for me, like, because when I turned 18, my dad basically took me to vote for like the local elections.
Yep.
And I think like voting in your local elections is just a simple form of like problem solving, because it's not always like huge issues like global warming, which are still like extremely important. it's also like simple problem solving. So like, do you want your roads fixed? Like, do you need this on the ballot for the next couple of months? Like, is this going to affect your kids' schools and stuff like that? So like, it's just like a simple and important form of just small and big problem solving.
Definitely.
Yvonne, I think that's really great your dad did that.
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
he was like, you have to vote for mayor. I was like, oh my god, okay.
You're gonna learn today.
I guess.
Awesome.
I would also say that it's important for youth as well to get started. There's a lot of information coming at youth, and there's a lot of things going on, but it's important just to get started as a life skill and as a learning and a feeling a part of society, what they are a part of.
Definitely. How many of you have seen the Vox documentary series Whose Vote Counts? Has anyone seen that? Sorry?
I was saying I have not.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't either.
Oh, okay. If you get a chance, you should watch it. It's really good. A few things that I didn't really know too much about is about voter suppression, and especially how long it has taken for people in America to actually get the right to vote, including like former prison inmates. And of course, people of color have had like struggles with getting the right to vote, and it's still happening today. So I think voting for the youth is still very important, because there are still people in society that aren't able to, and I think it's important for the youth to try to find ways around it. Doesn't matter whether they have a disability or not, but everybody's vote should count, and you shouldn't just leave this kind of decision up to chance, because there was a time where there were people who couldn't have a say and they weren't allowed to, and it still happens today. So if you do have that power to vote, then definitely use that power to change. So I think that really matters.
I want to add as well.
Yeah.
Like from the previous election.
Yeah.
So that day on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
When they were counting in the votes, Hillary got the popular vote.
Mm-hmm.
So by a good margin, and so people were like, okay, great, she's gonna win. And then look what happened. Trump won, but because with the electoral votes, and so I think that discouraged a lot of voters, because they really feel like, why am I voting if it's not gonna matter? Because look what happened. Like the popular vote did not. I feel like it didn't count for anything.
Yeah, so, that's true. That's true. Actually, that could be added to the this side of the board, the question of what, because that is very much a barrier for youth. They might feel a bit disillusioned, thinking that they could vote for the popular candidate and the popular candidate can't win.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I was watching a video earlier about like why the Electoral College exists, and they were saying that it exists because of slavery and how like states up north have more citizens, and so if they didn't have the Electoral College, like states like the South wouldn't have their votes counted as equally, just because there were slaves there and they weren't counted as citizens. So like they had the populace, but not like people that are actually citizens. So they create the Electoral College.
Yep, that's true. That's very true.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
It's very outdated.
Yeah.
Very outdated.
I'm just wondering, does gerrymandering still happen in America? I'm from Canada, so I'm not totally aware of like.
It doesn't happen. It's like counties are already there. You can tell when someone's gerrymandering because they don't alter the county lines anymore. But it's happened so frequently that they're not going to redraw the county lines just because it happened before.
Okay, I understand.
So like the county lines are already set in place now.
Okay, I see. Does anyone else have anything to say about this question here? what is causing lower voter turnout of youth? They do feel
Oh, wait, could you
discouraged.
repeat that?
Sorry? Oh,
I was asking.
Oh yeah. The question is, what is causing lower voter turnout of youth? So, what is
Oh.
causing young people to not go out and vote?
I think also not knowing when to vote, when and like what's going to be on the ballot. Because when I go vote often, because I vote pretty not often, but like when I know it's coming. But it's also like the only time I know is when I see a billboard when I'm driving, or it's like I see it if I'm going to like the elections website, which is not very frequently. And then also, like, when I get there, I don't know everything that's going to be on the ballot unless they mail me a sample ballot.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just imagine if people aren't as proactive as me, like, they're not going to know any of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So do you want to put that on the board as well?
Yeah, I'll put two, like, the first one being that, like, not knowing when the election time is, and the second, not knowing what's on the ballot.
Okay.
I mean, right now, like, for example, I think a huge chunk of younger voters, they use, like, for example, Spotify, like Instagram, Facebook, but you know what I'm saying. But I'm starting to see more advertisement just to vote. Like, I'm seeing it more than often this year. But I mean, they're trying their best, and they are reaching out to it, you know. But it's just like they said in the video that we watched earlier. It said that a lot of young voters, they don't really feel for Biden, you know, compared to Obama. Like, he doesn't really connect with them, if that makes any sense. I'm just saying for now, but it is still kind of hard right now, even with all this advertisement, to really push for young voters to go. But they're like, well, I don't like the candidates regardless, you know. But again, that's my opinion.
So let's say
throwing that out there.
Yeah. So lack of connection with political leaders. Okay, that's a good one to add. How about Dan? Did we hear from you?
No, not on this.
Okay.
I would say also, like confusing, like emotions and thoughts meets social pressure. Like it's a lot to kind of manage exactly how you feel, even if you had the information and knew what the vote's going on. It's, you know, it's confusing, and people feel different things and they hear different things, and you know, there's if your friends are apathetic, you know, you might be interested, you might go with that, and you know, fuck the vote. So just social pressure and confusing emotions.
Yeah, exactly. I feel as though, like, youth are told to just go out and vote, but they don't know who to vote for. And yeah, being pressured to vote does feel like a chore, like, oh, I have to do this and I don't really want to because there's nothing in it for me. So it could be that. But yeah, social pressure could be that as well. Just everyone else is doing it and you have to do it, so either you're going to be attuned to it or you're going to be turned off from it.
Yeah, and another thing I would add is that sometimes it's like confusing, or sometimes they'll present conflicting or confusing information. Like, for example, I think I voted twice when I was of age in Florida, and then they're like, oh, go to this polling location. The polling location was like closed, even though it was on the government website because the website wasn't updated. And so someone like that's not feeling that super like feeling that I have to go vote, they wouldn't go to another polling location like me. They would just go home. Like,
okay, I see.
Yeah, there's lots wrong.
That's a good thing to put on the board, actually.
I want to go back to what Melanie said. Like, I think it's very interesting that you use the word chore.
Yeah.
because we're, again, this is the young generation, 18 to 25, right? Just say that demographic. A lot of, like, a good percentage of these kids, I would say kids because I still feel like a kid, they still live with parents.
Yeah.
They still, a good chunk still live with parents, and you know what, in a sense it feels like they're not getting affected because they're living with parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it ranges with different people. I'm not saying all young adults are like not feeling the wrath, you know, but it's still like on the fence where, like, well, I don't, it's not affecting me, it's affecting my parents. Why should I do anything about it? You know, it's just my point of view. Maybe that's some of the cases, but that could be a point where they're like, okay, this feels like a chore, I don't want to do it, my parents deal with it, and I'm dealing with my own crisis right now. I gotta find a job, I'm going to school, you know. It's just something to throw out there. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah.
It could definitely be like that for some people. Maybe it's because they don't feel like that the aspects of looking for a job and being able to pay for university are things that are policies that you can actually vote for. So I guess it depends on like how connected the family is and like whether they talk about politics, because some people who grew up with parents who are not very vocal about politics. My mom wasn't very political herself, so you know, getting that information and knowing how it connects and relates to you is something that could be missing in some people's lives.
Yeah, so, I totally agree with that. Like, I remember I have friends that are just like, you know, why should I care? Like, I'm just worried about making money at the end of the day, you know?
But also, like, the, you know, wages and also jobs being available in your region can also be influenced by politics and policies. So again, it's like if people don't have that education of like what's going on in their city or town, then they won't really know like how they could vote differently to change their outcomes, right? So if you're struggling with work and struggling with bills, it's like, well, what are politicians doing right now to help you with that, right? So yeah, like some people could be very disconnected from that, and it could be to do with level of education, it could be to do with like income levels as well, and whether they even have the opportunity to have that kind of education. So all of that kind of changes how people perceive voting. And I guess we can quickly move on to the how section. So how can we empower youth to vote? If you got any ideas, you can feel free to jump right in, or we can talk about it.
One thing I know that oh, whoops, I'm supposed to talk about it.
Oh, it's okay.
But basically, I was like, one thing that I needed is that I really needed like some pre-information beforehand of like what's going to be on the ballot well beforehand. So like if there is like an email chain sent to me, or like I know they send the ballot, the sample ballot to you, but it'd be nice if I had like an app or something like that could show me based on my zip code and location what propositions and what things will be on the ballot, and like what will happen if I say yes or no to these things.
Okay, so you want like showing relevant, how do you call it?
I guess relevant locational information.
Okay, showing locational information. Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Like when I was trying to look for where I could vote, like my polling station, I had to go through like several pages on the website to find just one place, and it's really daunting. For example, if somebody just wants to know, like, okay, hey, where can I vote? You know, they shouldn't have to go through several pages just to find that one location.
Right.
So that to me, it's very discouraging in a sense. And I'm like, well, I don't know where to vote. Oh well.
Yeah, and like the government websites, they don't be updating them.
It's I guess the government websites can be overwhelming, and it's not straight to the point of where you can vote.
Gotcha.
And I would say making voting a connected social activity. When I lived in Toronto, actually, my friend started, it was basically voting flash mobs, and we would dress up and we would go, and it was actually the most fun, and it also felt it was the encouragement from peers, and people there enjoyed it, and that's on one end of the social spectrum. But even if that were a digital thing, just getting that confirmation and knowledge and sort of camaraderie from social.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the pandemic, we would need like a digital version of like a flash mob. But yeah, like social connection is very much like in need, and I think youth are pretty good at like following different movements, like Black Lives Matters. So people are showing up in numbers in America to show that they really care about the future and about equality and about everything that matters to them. So yes, like being part of something that feels like a movement and you can identify with the movement, that's pretty important.
And another thing that I feel that would be empowering was just like some. I think for me, like I know this is more of like there's differences between like entry to vote versus like someone who's more experienced with voting. And like for me, like when I learn about issues, it's hard to feel nonpartisan when I'm making the decision. So like also like getting information presented to me in a nonpartisan manner based on like what will this affect and how will this affect it, without feeling like, okay, like there's some moral ambiguity here that's being written in.
That's right. So would you say that's like you want unbiased information? Yeah. To kind of help.
Yeah, because during election time, there's a lot of ads, and they're very biased.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to add that to the board?
Yeah, I'll write it.
Okay, cool. Is that Jessica? Jessa?
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's okay. Thanks for joining us. Right now, we're just trying to address the challenge and define the purpose of this sprint. So right now, we're on the question of how we can empower youth to vote. Do you have any ideas at this point, or do you have questions?
I guess I agree on I don't know if we can do social media flash mobs. I don't but I know that through social media we can empower the youth to vote, because most of us are definitely on social media, especially now that the pandemic is going on. And I think it would also help if these people, influencers, could like encourage the youth to vote.
Definitely.
Because teenagers today follow these influencers on social media, right? So whatever they do, they copy or follow them. So I think,
that's definitely true. Definitely, I think that could very much empower youth to vote. If they have like a youth role model that actually cares about issues and can actually motivate people to do more research and to look into how they can vote and how they can take part. Yeah, definitely think that can empower youth. Anything else that we want to add? No, we're good. Oh, sorry. Go on, Dan.
I would also say, like, if the one of the issues is that youth don't feel the vote counts, maybe really connecting youth to that feeling, however that is, whether that's, videos or social media, really connecting youth to why it matters and how it can matters, because youth haven't necessarily seen that in their lives.
Okay. How else can we phrase that?
Just like connecting youth to importance or meaning.
Yeah, they need meaning. Okay, so connecting youth to meaning. Okay. Let's add that to the board. Yeah, these are all great ideas. I like how this is shaping up. I think we can move on to the next activity now, because we have pretty much some pretty good broad answers here. Oh. And the next activity here is a value proposition map. So basically, we're going to design an app that's going to help the youth to vote. Considering what our ideas are up here, we're going to somehow translate that into actual value that a customer who would use this app would see as beneficial to them in their lives. Okay? So I guess we can start off by overviewing this map and seeing how it works. I don't know how many of you have seen a value proposition map. Is anyone new to this? Like, they've never seen this before?
Yeah. Is that... I saw the video you posted, but...
Okay. Okay. So basically, this is just a way for us to organize our thoughts and to make sure that we are actually going to consider the needs of the customer from their point of view. And then from our side, as designers, we need to figure out what kind of gains and what kind of pains we're going to relieve for the customer. So just starting from this corner here, customer gains, these are things that the customer will define as a benefit if they use our app. And down here is customer pains, is something that they would find as a barrier, something that customers wouldn't like in a particular app. And on this corner here, customer jobs is a definition of what customers are... Yeah, sorry, let me just lock the board so it doesn't slip around. Just a second. Yeah. It's okay, it happens. Anyway, yeah, so customer jobs is basically a definition of like what a customer is trying to do. I think it's important to define this so that we have a clear understanding of like how our app is actually going to work and how it's actually going to help the customer to vote, right? So in this case, if we're thinking about customers in general, just the youth, Gen Z or millennials, do you have an idea of like what a politically engaged youth would need to do with our app? Like, what would they use the app for? Like, what are they trying to do? I'll start the first one, because I think at the end of the day, youth need to vote. So they need to find out how to vote, where to vote, and they need to do that action. So I'm just going to put the first idea down. If I can get the text to be a bigger size. There we go. That's one customer job that I think needs to be addressed. Is there any other ideas that we have here? Does anyone know what a customer might want to do? Sorry?
To learn the politicians who they are?
Yeah, definitely. But when it comes to doing,
okay.
I think it's a pain. I'm so sorry, but I think it belongs to the pain area, because as a teenager who for example, you just turned 18 and it's your turn to vote and you're influenced to vote. It's a pain to do research because it's confusing for a newbie to search for who to vote on the election. So probably they do like a Russian roulette on who to vote. Just vote on who is popular or someone something like that.
Definitely true. Let me just add some more stickies here so you guys can copy and paste them. There you go. So, if we can imagine for a moment, let's just say, Amira, you said you had an experience where you were experiencing like difficulty in finding information. Was it for polling?
Yeah, it was for a polling location. I basically wanted to go to the polling location that was closest to my house. And then I went to the location that was actually closed and had to go to a different location that was just slightly farther.
Okay, I understand. So that was more to do with location. So in this case, what you were also trying to do in your situation was find a place to vote and get there. So you needed some directions. So you need locational directions. Something that you could put on Google and then drive to your nearest polling station. So I think that's a situation where you're trying to do something.
For the pains, can we just say that voting in general is a pain?
Yeah, it can be. It's very stressful. Especially during the pandemic. It's like, what are you supposed to do? What are you not supposed to do? There's some etiquette around polling. So, yeah. But as it relates to the app, though, also got to keep it in line with what we're trying to create here.
Okay.
It is still, you know what? This could still tie into the app in a way, because wouldn't it be great if there was an app that can actually tell you, sort of like with Google Maps, where if you search for like a bus route, it could actually tell you how busy that route is. So wouldn't it be nice if people could check into a polling station and you can actually know before you go, like how many people are there, so that you can keep your social distance. So yeah, that could be a relevant thing to be concerned about, is how many people are going to show up. So let's phrase it as,
and that could fit into all sorts of live polling station information, wait time. There's a number of different things.
Oh yeah, waiting.
That is a pain.
Yes, that is a pain.
Definitely. What about some gains? So if this customer were to use our app, what would they gain from it?
Be more well informed with their community.
They'll be well informed.
Better prepared.
Yes. In a sense. They would feel better prepared, definitely.
And have an easier voting process. I can write that.
Okay, cool. And what else is a gain for them? I guess it would feel connected, like socially, like they feel like they're part of something. Like we need to make that connection clear, that they actually feel like they've done something. You feel accomplished, maybe. what else? Are there any other customer jobs, like other things that the customer might be trying to do? Because there's the location problem. They need to vote, which is important. But what about society and community? What are we trying to get them to do in the community?
Encourage others to participate as well.
Yeah, there's a social aspect to it. So I guess people need to be just think of it as like something they need to do. I wouldn't say they may need to make friends through the app, but if their friends were on the app and they knew about it, then definitely they feel kind of connected. So perhaps there's like a social need here that we could put in. Let me just put it in as like a vague idea because I need to articulate it. I guess it's communication-wise, I think. Maybe it's to do with communication. They need to communicate or express their views. Okay. And what does this one say? Reading information themselves? Yeah, definitely. Informing themselves. So yeah, they need information. They need to learn about what's going on in their community. Okay, that's cool. So let's also move on to this side, which is how we're going to build value to the customer. And this is what our app is going to do for them, how we're going to address these concerns and reduce some of the pains that they have here. So let's start off with pain relievers because this idea is kind of fresh on my mind about getting live update information about polling stations. So I'm going to say that could be a pain reliever, just knowing what the polling station is going to be like before you go and approximately like how long it would take to wait. That reduces the tension of waiting and not knowing what's going to happen. So I'd say, live, up-to-date polling information.
And I wonder if with the live, up-to-date, like bringing the social aspect into that, I mean, there's discussions about, who to vote for and all that, but also there's social media stuff.
Yes.
I voted, but if it were even more detailed, like I voted, it took this long, it was this easy, because some of that could also be helpful to say, oh, it really isn't a big deal. It's really it's breaking that barrier of difficulty with the social.
Like reviews?
Yeah, reviews, or even if it were just purely data, like wait time, I did it here, it took this long. But yeah, maybe, reviews could also be good.
So stats on the voting experience?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and it's live, so... Ooh.
Oh, transparency. Okay.
Sorry, could you say that again? Transparency. Yeah, definitely. Oops. Do you mean like transparency as in privacy terms and conditions?
I mean, transparency, I guess
Okay. So like it explains the voting process. So we'd be taking the mystery out of voting, like to make sure it's very clear. Is that how I'm understanding it? Like, if I'm getting it wrong, let me know.
I'm not sure if it's a pain reliever, but I think it's just never mind and cross that out.
Okay. It's alright. If you want to add it to the board and like edit it later, you can do that. Totally fine. Right. So I can't see the sticky here. What does that say? Knowing what will... Oh, Amira, you're still typing. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I was just putting that like a pain reliever would be knowing like what would be all on the ballot before I even get there.
Yes, definitely. I guess there needs to be some more explanation about different methods of voting. So you can either vote in person or register online.
Yeah.
And also like mail-in ballots and stuff. Yeah.
Those kind of suck too.
Yeah.
I also put down the pains, like, because I just moved to Texas and I put in my registration in the mail, but then the mail's moving very slowly.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and they just put a block here in Texas for like only having one mailbox per county or something like that. Like, I think that's a real voter suppression right there.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's move on to game creators. Whoops. Oh, it's okay. Let me move that back up. Happens all the time. Yeah. So we need to define how our app will actually benefit the customer. This kind of directly relates to gains, things that the customer will see as a benefit, and we need to directly relate that to something that we can do on our app. So feeling prepared comes with getting the right kind of information and relevant information. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting relevant information based on your zip code. Whoops. Wow, if only I could spell relevant right. Alright, and another game creator. Because it says here, easier voting process. So how can we make that easier? Who made this sticky? Did I make this?
I made that.
Oh, you made that, Amira. How can we make the voting process easier?
Well, I think what I meant by that sticky is just like the start to finish is seamless. So like when I'm going to start to vote, whatever I choose would be an easy process to do by the end of it.
Okay.
But it just depends on the process that the person is choosing, I guess. So like if they're going to vote in person, it's easy for them to find a location, know what they're going to vote for and the outcomes, and then go to the process of voting. And if they're doing mail-in, knowing what's beforehand, how to request that and stuff.
Okay. I like what you said about seamlessness, because sometimes when things are seamless, it's almost like without effort. things seem to work, right? And I'm kind of thinking about how the customer would use this app in their everyday lives. Like, should they get notifications like at different times of the day so that they can be reminded about certain events that are happening? Or like, I'm trying to think about what makes it seamless. It's like,
what
is
I
it,
was thinking, particularly for me, just like one, because like there's pretty multiple notifications for different things. Like, okay, registration's coming up. Okay, like this is the date that you need to vote, and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, let's check out your polling locations. But for me, it'd be great if I had a notification on like some application that was like, okay, like the election's coming up in like 50 something days. And here's what's going to be on your ballot, and here's the outcomes of if you choose yes or no of those items. So then you have a choice. You have a time to register, because you need to register at least 30 days before the election happens, or the voting process happens.
That's cool. So I think maybe custom notifications would be a great feature to add, so the user can pick, you know, what they want to be reminded of, and get timely reminders on like when to prepare, or even weather conditions. Because I'm pretty sure, like, if you're going out to vote, wouldn't it be great if you could feel more prepared to go to the polling station if you knew what the weather conditions were like, right? Because if there was like a tornado or something like that, you need to plan, like, you know, what you're going to do next, right? So that would disrupt someone's ability to actually go out to vote. Wouldn't you think so?
Yes.
I mean, it's not likely to happen, but it could happen.
I mean, it gets cold in certain places here in the United States, so just standing outside, and especially during COVID, like, that just really discouraged people from actually going to vote because of that.
So. Definitely.
I do want to add something. I don't know if it would work, but for example, when people go like older, here in Texas, like I think it's above 50 or 65, where you're the only ones that can vote in mail, right? There's been some concern too, where they vote, but then their vote is not valid because they did something wrong, and then they don't have the chance to vote again. Like, I wonder if, I don't know how to word that exactly, but a system to where they're like, hey, by the way, you did this wrong. You should do that. You should correct it before we send it out. Kind of system.
Like error checking.
Yeah, an error check. Yeah, exactly.
That's a great idea. Error checking. Okay, that is definitely a gain. What else can we solve here? How can we help the customer feel more accomplished? Like, how do we feel accomplishment?
I know for a lot of people, they get the voter sticker, and like that's like a huge thing. I know for my parents and my dad, they were like, oh, like, get your voter sticker and put it on and post about it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Oh, but okay. But I think like a modified version of that would be great. Like, oh, I check in that I voted, and then you have like a sticker that you can upload via like Snapchat or Instagram stories as like a filter.
That is very true. Stickers, Snapchat, Instagram, filters. But is that how you feel accomplished? Maybe that's a way to show accomplishment outwardly, and that will create social connection because other people will be seeing you do that, and they may even be encouraged to do it too. But when it comes from a deeper feeling of accomplishment, I think it comes from either like challenging yourself, putting yourself to the test, and then actually doing it. So I think maybe to consider the journey like in an authentic way, to help people feel accomplished, I think if we create an app that kind of not only sends alerts, but the way that the messages are written, kind of written to you in a way that it kind of helps you to feel like you are like in charge here and that this is your future. I just think about it as like how the app's communications can be perceived by the customer. So I think maybe
so
the
like
language used.
Language.
Yeah, yeah. I guess.
And also, I guess I want to be careful with this because this could change the way the app works, but maybe after voting or some way connecting with people who are aligned with your party. So if you can see, oh, your party's winning in such and such a riding, like that's really exciting, and that makes you feel like a connected to that community. Even if your riding is, you can feel down if your riding, you feel like you wasted your vote or whatever. So it's exciting to see, oh yeah, this party that I believe in is doing well, at least here, and you can feel a part of that success.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I can relate to that because in the Canadian elections, the last time I voted for NDP and watching on the news, seeing in real time, like they're gaining more and more votes, I kind of had this feeling like, yes, they're winning. Or, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that is also like a really important thing that we can actually do in the app is to have like a live update of the election. So this app is just not for getting out to voting, but also what happens during the vote counting. Like you want to feel accomplished, like your voting actually counted for something, and to see your elected official win a seat, right? So yeah, I think that's really important to put on the board to get like live feeds of the voting result, and also like notifications. Cool. So did I articulate that right, or do you want to add something else, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I was live. That's actually really cool. But I was also thinking, sort of more of an emotional connection to like if like it would be a board or like specifically tailored live feed. Like the party you voted for is this is how they're doing, and a little more like this is how we're doing. I'm looking for just the emotional societal connection there.
Okay.
But that's also, I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea in this app to be tailoring it to your party.
No, like it could be, right? Because either the user is going to be nonpartisan and that's just part of their personality. They just want to be unbiased and they don't want to pick sides. But there are some, especially some of my friends, they are left wing. They do not like right wing politics at all. So depending on, I guess, your own personal preferences, maybe in the app there's a way to kind of filter out content that's just related to you. So
like to customize it?
Yeah, exactly. A way to customize it. So if you're nonpartisan, get nonpartisan information. If you're not, then just don't get that kind of information. That could be seen as a gain to the customer because they have control.
I'm just kind of worry about that, mainly because like sometimes staying nonpartisan prevents things from being missed, I guess, because if people tailor their feed, especially like on social media, people tailor their feed to only seeing certain things, it kind of encapsulates the voter in like a vacuum. So I'm just worried that they won't, like, allowing the user to kind of customize it where they can only see not necessarily left wing, but just issues that they only want to see, then it kind of disconnects them from community a little bit, because there are other issues that may not necessarily be left wing or right wing that may be filtered out because of their preferences.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Because what do they call it? It's like an echo chamber in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's the thing. I'm still on the fence about like echo chambers because it's great that technology we can filter out content and only see what we want to see. But then we also miss out on things that we're not looking for that would also benefit us and educate us, right? And sometimes it's not always important to just hear opinions from your own side. Like, it's important to have a balanced view. And it could create more connection in the community. And that's something that is needed right now because everyone's kind of quite divided. But yeah, like, I still see the benefit of like filtering because if we show information that's going to emotionally trigger a customer, then that may end up being a pain point for them. Because there are some people who haven't gotten over some of their biases and they might be emotionally attached to their party, and if they hear anything that might be perceived as an attack, doesn't mean that it is an attack, but if they perceive it as something that goes against their beliefs, then they might be very emotional and defensive. So, yeah. So it's really difficult because it's a challenge that I think we're kind of facing right now because popularism is on the rise everywhere in the world. So yeah, that is tricky to figure out how to balance a conversation.
They don't get to filter their ballot as well. So like when you get your ballot, like you only have what the county or that area specific to where you're registered is going to give you. So what I was thinking is that if you have a choice to filter like the information that's presented to you that's going to be on the ballot, you might miss certain items that, you know, may be important to your community or to someone else that may need to be voted on, and then it's on the ballot and you're not informed about it.
That's true.
It's tricky, as you said.
Yeah. Okay.
And one potential thing would be if the goal is to emotionally connect, it could be like once you voted, you have the option to put that in to the app, and so you're connected to the process and the ballots and the waiting and the celebrations, but not necessarily influencing your vote. But that's one way to deal with that.
Definitely. Did you add that to the board, or do you want to add that?
No, I can add that.
Okay, cool. All right. It's 1:00. We have about like 1 hour left. Let's just quickly finish the products and services section, and then we can have like a 5-minute break if you guys feel like it. Or we could just continue on to the next map until everything's done. Does anyone have any objections to that, or?
No? I'm fine to keep going, but I'm okay with what everybody feels.
Okay. All right, cool. So in products and services section, we just basically list, well, we are the product, like we're making an app, that is the product that we're making, but we also have to list out services that would actually help the customer. So the most obvious thing that I can add right here is we provide an app. Okay, so it could be anything like Android or iOS. And we provide them with, I guess, information on geographical locations of polling stations, I guess we can also provide them with sort of like a curated feed of, I wouldn't say news information because that's not exactly what people need in this app.
Just updated polling information that'll appear on their next election based on their location.
Yeah.
what propositions are going to be on the ballot, or what propositions that they'll get to vote for to see on the next ballot.
Yeah. Or what about education on politics, policies, what's going on in their community? So we can provide them with the education of what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe links, external links to, oops, didn't spell education right. Maybe external links to organizations or charities that are kind of connected in the community.
Yeah, or also like external links to like government pages that are important. Like for example, like, oh, you need to register, here's the link to register.
Yes. What else? I guess a profile of candidates.
Yeah.
I mean, this relates to education, but it's still good to keep it specific. These are all things that we can serve on the app. What about how do I phrase this? But if on the app we could actually see how many of your friends are using the same app and see who they're voting for, kind of like to be connected and to know that like your friends are also doing the same thing too. Or maybe like integration with social media accounts, so you can sign up with Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if there was an option for them to let them share a link with their friends and family.
Exactly.
Texting or such.
And there was mention of Snapchat filters, so maybe our app could actually have its own Snapchat filter. And right on the app, you can just, I don't know, integrate it with Snapchat somehow. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that is something that we can do.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Maybe even integration with Google Maps for location and also weather and traffic updates. So that when you actually are making the plan to go out to vote, you can actually, because I know on Google you can actually update live when you're checking in to certain places, or give feedback on your route, as to say, oh, I took the bus to the polling station, for example, and the bus was full, or the polling station was really long. So let's just say we have some kind of like integrated feature with Google to be able to do that. I'm just gonna put that in quickly. Ah, Sticky, where are you?
Also to consider the Waze app. I don't know what that is. Does anybody know what Waze is?
Sorry?
The app Waze. Have you guys heard of it before?
Waze, yeah. So
yeah, I think that can help out too, because they also have this thing where you can do carpooling too. So.
Oh, yeah. Do they still do carpooling in the States?
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not right now. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But future-wise, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was becoming more of a thing. Like a lot of companies were doing like carpooling for their employees and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, just with the pandemic here, it's like, yeah, Uber, you can't do Uber Pool anymore. So, yeah, carpooling here is sort of not happening because of COVID. But yeah, considering COVID, should we offer any kind of COVID information through this app that's somewhat related to polling?
Yeah.
Some kind of public health information? Okay. So we'll provide some public health information. Cool. Alright, this board is looking busy.
Yeah, a lot of stickies.
Yeah, lots of stickies. I need to make it bigger for next time, so we can put more good ideas. Alrighty. I'd say this is very good. By the way, I showed you guys on Discord that this section here is just for reference. So we don't have to really work with this information, but for the next section, we might need to reference it. So if you have time after this sprint is over, you can have a look at some of the polls and look at the data behind some of these statements. I think it's really interesting. But moving on to the next thing, I've created an empathy map here, and I've actually taken a quote from an interview that was found in the New York Times, and I added it to this empathy map here. And the reason why I did this is because usually in UX design, there's usually an interview phase where you're actually supposed to talk to the customer that we're actually building the app for. In this case, we don't really have a real person to interview, so I created this fictitious person whose name is Deanna Ayers, who I just grabbed the name from this article here. And for this challenge, we basically have to take these stickies and discuss as a group as to whether this is something that Deanna thinks in her day, or what she does, or what she feels. And this map can actually teach us how to empathize with the customer and learn how their behaviors and their thoughts and their motivations kind of fit into what we're designing for them. So in order to design better apps and features, we need to understand a person and how they feel and what they go through in a day, so that we can actually properly help them with whatever they're trying to do. So this kind of relates with customer jobs, it kind of relates with the value proposition map, but this is done in a different way that we can actually try to visualize like a real person kind of saying these things. So, you could take a sticky, or I can actually just take a sticky and just ask you guys like whether you feel or think that it fits into one of these categories, and we'll discuss why or why not, and then we'll just put it into the section. Okay. So, Deanna is 21 years old. She's going to university. Yeah, she's from Texas. She loves Bernie Sanders. And this sticky here says that she is very meticulous and careful. And it sounds like a quote that she would say. But I'm also thinking maybe it's something that she does, because that seems like a very definitive statement. And it seems like, you know, she could be very well a meticulous and careful person. What do you think?
I think she would think that.
Yeah, she could be. She could be thinking that. It doesn't mean that she is, right?
Yeah. We're just assuming.
Yeah, it's what she believes she is. Definitely. Does anyone want to take another sticky and put it on the board, or should we just take one?
Thinking, like, being emotionally attached to great ideas and organizations. Well, actually,
I think she feels overwhelmed. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes into the the feels area.
I think it keeps the head down to avoid conflict goes does.
She could be very busy, so does.
Yeah, she's doing stuff. Definitely. This one, I think, is definitely a feeling. She feels bad if she doesn't get the facts just right. So she likes to be right. Or at least correct. Factually correct.
Introverted feels introverted.
It's also a behavior.
In between.
Yeah, it feels like it's in the middle.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Studies nursing. That's definitely something that she does.
Yeah.
She's really busy. Isn't it? Sure.
She says she asks friends for suggestions.
This one's a statement. It says asks friends for suggestions. Yeah, I think that would go into the does section.
Unsure who to trust in elect. She thinks or she feels. Think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it could be a think. Yeah.
Emotional.
It's difficult to change my ways. I think that sounds like something she could say. Oh, yeah. Healthcare, that definitely could go into the says section.
Yeah, it's also something she can feel, I guess, because she's saying she could.
Well,
I guess never mind.
Well, that's the thing, because it could be like a proclamation too. Like, is she the type of person to be like, yo, I love my job? Or something that she feels and doesn't really verbalize, you know?
Yeah.
The thing about this type of exercise is that when it's done with a real person, it's like, when you spend time with that person, you know what kind of statements are said and what's kind of things that you could perceive them feeling, right? So if you observe the person feeling a certain way when they're testing an app, then definitely you can get more of that definitive, clear information.
I think this one feels emotionally attached to great ideas.
Yes, I definitely think so as well. I am concerned about my personal data being shared on social media. That is a real concern.
Yeah.
I
think that's a feel.
I would say that's also a think, because I'm just saying from my opinion, it's like sometimes, like, I have friends who really are concerned about like their information when they sign up to different apps or even on social media. There's that feeling of like reading the terms and conditions and being like, okay, I don't quite trust this. It's Google, they got all my data, I don't want to share my data. You're kind of skeptical. It could be a think and a feel. Like, both of them are kind of informed. If you don't trust something, then you're not going to feel comfortable. But then if it's a concern, then it's also on your mind. You're going to be thinking about how to make a decision. like whether or not to sign up or not.
You put the sticky on top of her. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
Put it right in the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me just put it like right there. And then make it smaller.
I would almost say, just in the context of an app, something like that might be a little more feels, because it's like there's a lot of emotion tied into it, and if you're worried about, you know, who you're voting, if you don't want to talk about who you're voting for, that's I get a sense that that's more of like a gut fear.
Yeah, trust is like very emotional, because like it's sort of like having faith in a person, in a friend or a partner. You have to trust them, and that is a feeling. So you don't have all the information in front of you. You can't make an objective decision on whether or not to trust someone always, right? So it's like when you sign away your freedoms when joining Facebook, you trust that your information is going to be secure, but it doesn't mean that it will be. So yeah, I think that is a feeling. I changed my mind on that one. Mentors women at homeless shelters. It's a does, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
True enough. Make that smaller.
Who knows what she says, thinks, and feels about that?
Yeah. Well, if the person was real, then definitely would be able to determine that. I love spending time with my friends. Okay. Well, she loves that. It's a statement. Mm-hmm. It's something that she could say, but it's also something that she feels. She loves her friends, but also loves spending time with them. Can you imagine her proclaiming that? Can you imagine this person saying that? Like, oh, I love to spend time with my friends. Or do you think she would keep that information to herself?
I think she would say it.
Yeah, I think she would. She seems very compassionate and open. She wants to let people know that she cares. So she would vocalize her feelings. Mm-hmm. I still think it belongs in feels, but it's also something that she would say. Mm-hmm. I want to see change in my society.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Feel?
Say, yeah, like says, feels, and does.
I think this would be a statement that she would say.
Yeah, it has quotes on it. So she said it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does. Like, some of them have quotes, some of them don't. My mistake, but yeah, I think this is something that she wants people to know. So when it comes to things that this particular customer would say, I can imagine her saying that. Especially since I found this quote here that says, I would love to see more emphasis on listening to young people and talking to us instead of at us. I feel like she's outspoken enough to be like, hey, yeah, I want to see change in society. I care. Like, I give a damn. So I think that she would be that type of person, to be quite open and compassionate and to share what she's thinking and feeling. So I don't think she's very private or anything like that, or just holding that kind of information to herself. Difficult to change my ways.
I think it's a feeling. Like, she feels like it's difficult to do things, you know, if she's a busy person and such. Mm-hmm. Like, she feels it, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Any other ideas?
don't think so.
Okay, we could put it in feels for now.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like something that I feel like I can't change my ways. Instead of something that's like say it to someone, because maybe some implications when you say that out loud.
It is difficult to change your ways.
Yeah.
But this is also
thinks.
Yeah.
I feel like that could definitely go under thinks, like something that she's actively thinking herself. Like I feel like she thinks it's difficult for her to do that.
Yes. Because this also connects with her feeling bad about not being right. So if she is struggling with change, that might be something internal. She might not be showing that vulnerability or saying it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I need to know what I'm doing matters.
I feel like it's a think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Firstborn out of 3 siblings.
That's something. Yeah, sometimes something that she just does. She is. She's existing in that.
In the middle.
Okay. It take a long time to make a decision. Yeah, that seems like something she does. Totally agree. Alrighty. So I think that just about covers it. So we have 2 maps filled out here. And what we're discovering in this process is going to lead to part 2. So first we have to organize some of this information in our heads and be like, okay, who is this person that we're designing an app for? What is she like as a person? And how are we going to address their needs based on these maps here? In the next step, we're going to actually create a segmentation map as well as a persona so that we can actually go into more detail about this person, Deanna, who is fictitious, and give her more of a profile that makes her into a real person. And then after that, we're going to create a customer journey map and some prototypes for our crazy app design. And yeah, so far at this part, seeing as we don't have anything further to add, that kind of concludes things so far. So I hope that this kind of exercise has taught you how to think about the customer, how to put ourselves in their shoes. And this will kind of lead us to the next process of creating an app with purpose. And yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this process and actually liked how this is all kind of coming together. Because the more time that we spend like talking and discussing, we actually start to come up with new ideas. So yeah, I don't know. I thought this was a good session. We covered everything that we could. Do you guys have any like questions so far about like what's coming next, or do you have any comments on the session today?
I really liked it, just to hear other people's perspectives, especially during, this is not an easy topic to talk about because it's politics, it deals with politics, but it's a good refresher.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm inspired. It's awesome to watch you lead the session, and it's cool to see how it can be, how you prepared it ahead of time instead of just sticky notes, and instead of ideas, you've got these already pre-planned diagrams, and it's amazing to hear everyone's come together on this thing, I'm already like, how is this like? When is this app happening? This is amazing.
Yeah, let's launch it. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, thanks for your comments, guys. Like, I'm very, very happy. Yeah, like, I'm open to, like, almost anything, and I kind of like the flow of the presentations, because I've actually participated in workshops before, and I felt like some of them were really quite rushed, but I like being able to kind of, like, sit with our thoughts and actually think and feel things before we contribute. So I'm glad that you all, like, provided us with insight into your own lives and told us stories, and because that kind of helps me to understand how this election is affecting you as an American. I'm Canadian, so it's like I'm just kind of watching from the sidelines, and it's kind of crazy, but I kind of do care about what happens in the end. So I hope that, like, with all of us together, we can actually come up with, like, some pretty compelling ideas that could actually be real prototypes, or just as practice, just a way to, like, exercise our skills and become better UX designers. But yeah, thank you guys for, like, participating.
Yes, it's really fun.
Yes, you're all awesome. Thank you so much. Also,
thank you.
Yes, thanks. Also, there's a feedback link here. So if you actually have, like, other ideas that kind of pop up to mind, maybe like a day after the sprint, just click on that link there and it'll take you to a Google form. You don't have to add your name or anything like that. It's completely anonymous. Yeah, any feedback about, like, how the presentation was running, or whether you have ideas on how to make it better, you can